Hey my friend, this is Joe Bakhmoutski, author of Simplified Cancer and founder of Power to Be Happy. Listen, as we're talking about hope, in a time of uncertainty, one thing that I think comes up for all of us in the terms of on our path to finding hope is confusion. Because we all get confused about what's going on. And that makes you feel lost, that makes you feel overwhelmed. And it's very hard to make decisions that you really need to make in your life, because you're all over the place and you don't know which is the right way to go. And if you feel like emotional, you're just like up and down, it's tough. I remember one time in my life when I was a teenager, we just came to Australia. We just moved to Australia to live. And I remember going out for a walk, and this was still a brand new world to me. And I remember as I went for a walk along one of the streets here in Melbourne, I remember just kind of looking around at one point and going, like, where am I? I really had no idea where I was or how I got there. And I was like, how do I find my way home? I don't really know this place. I don't even know how to ask for directions properly. Like, it all seems so different. It's like I've landed on a different planet. I'm looking around and it all seems kind of the same from, compared to, how I grew up with. And it was just such a different reality. And I was like, what do I do? And I started kind of freaking out, going like, so what do I do now? And I felt so lost. I never felt so lost in my life. The kind of stranger in a strange land. Until I finally found the courage to ask for directions. And that was hard for two reasons. Like, really, first of all, because I really didn't even speak the language properly, and I just kind of, mumbled my way to trying to explain to where I wanted to go. And luckily, this person gave me enough to go on that I could kind of try and find my way back home. But also because I'm a man and I have trouble asking for directions or help of any kind. So it's such a critical thing to be able to find courage within yourself first and foremost, to try to figure things out, because it's hard. It's hard because we all inevitably feel lost, and we lose that confidence to go on. I know that when you're experiencing that confusion, when you're overwhelmed, when you feel like just all over the place, there's so many kind of options that you could do. There's all those things that never even occur to you, right? Because you don't know what you don't know, and also because you're just not in that place where you can weigh things up emotionally, right? So when you need to make decisions, about things that you may not really understand, you really want to make them in a rational way. You kind of want to sideline our emotions. We want to put that aside and really make decisions using logic. I want to share with you an approach that I've really developed through my experience of going with cancer, because I was often faced with situations that were confusing, that I didn't really understand, and I often had to make decisions, about, for example, my cancer treatment, or just over kind of problems that, seemed like I didn't know what is the right way to either to find a way out, or even how to weigh things up. Because it seemed to me like every choice could be the wrong one, or I could be completely off track, and that got me off on a spiral of kind of worry, and this just never leads to a good place. So the way that I would use this outcome tool, and I'll give you my example, is like, for example, for me, when I had I had one of my testicles removed for cancer, and this is one day, probably several months after probably all my treatment was finished, I started to have pain in my remaining testicle, and that was that was really uncomfortable, and in many ways it put me off on the spiral of doom, because I started to worry and I started to think, well, does this mean that my other testicle is going to get removed, and that means that it's going to stop the testosterone and I won't be able to have sex, and like my wife is going to leave me and I'm not going to have even the energy to just get around. It was awful. I just started just panicking and freaking out and just doubting everything and everyone. And one thing that's really helped me is to draw it out on a page. And I really wrote it down and I said, like, this is where you have to think like a detective almost and work backwards. As I started out with going, well, so what is the situation right now? Well, the situation is I have a pain in my remaining testicle. So what are the probable outcomes? What are all the things that it could be? And I thought, well, it could be that the cancers come back, right? That's one thing. I thought, well, it could be also, a secondary cancer. It could be a different testicular cancer that's come back. That's possible as well. It doesn't have to be the same as the first one. It could also be an infection of some kind that got in. So I thought there was all of these type of options, and I sat down and I worked through each one, and I go, well, how likely is it that the cancers come back? And I thought, well, when I thought about it like rationally and I just kind of weigh it up, I thought, well, it's probably not all that likely, because if it was the first cancer, I wouldn't feel it in the testicle, it come back in another part of the body from everything that I know. I thought, okay, well, is it possible that it's a different testicular cancer that formed in this testicle? Well, I thought, well, probably not. It's probably unlikely, because if it did, I wouldn't be experiencing sharp pain, right? It would probably, growing signs. We have other symptoms to do with that. So I thought, well, it's most likely that it's actually some kind of an infection. And if it is, then it's probably treated relatively easily. And I thought, well, what is the one thing that I could do about it right now? I thought, well, I could just probably ring up my urologist and say that I needed to see them as soon as possible, which I've done. And it was actually confirmed. It confirmed that it did turn out to be an infection, and I got some kind of full-on antibiotics and stuff. But it worked out. I'm not saying that this is how I planned it to be, but what it really helped me to do is to make a decision of what to do, to really understand what's going on, and to then apply it on the level of making a decision and getting a semblance of control over a situation and getting clarity. Because that is really the outcome that we want to get out of this whole situation. We want to move away from confusion. We want to kind of break it apart, see the situation for what it is, and we want to create clarity. That's what it's all about. So the way that you'd want to do it right now is, if you can take a sheet of paper, put that in front of you and write down this situation that you are in. So maybe a problem that you're trying to solve, or something a situation that you want to figure out the potential next steps, or figure out a way out of. And you want to kind of write it down in the middle of a page, and then write all the probable outcomes, all the things that it could be, without thinking. And you'll probably end up, with anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7 things in that. And once you write all those things down, you then want to spend probably 30 seconds on each and trying to really just assign a likelihood as a percentage. Like, how likely is it to happen? And it doesn't have to be some scientific method. It could be just your best guess. What it does is it really forces you to think through it logically, right? We are putting our emotions aside and we're working through it in a rational way. Now you've assigned a percentage, a likelihood to each one. And now you can really kind of look at the big picture and say, okay, so what is the likeliest likeliest outcome, or which way do I want to go? And what is the one thing that I can do starting today? What is one thing that I can do right now? And that will help you to break down the confusion, have some clarity around what's going on, have a little bit of sense that you have some control over this, right? Because one of the things that is really, is a real side effect of confusion is that it creates doubt. You're gonna start doubting yourself. You lose confidence. You start second guessing yourself. You start asking yourself all of these negative questions like, am I good enough to do this? Is this thing even going to work out? If things are going to get even worse? And the trouble with negative questions like that is, if you ask yourself these negative questions, then the answers are also probably going to be negative. If you ask yourself like, am I good enough to do this? The answer is going to be probably going to lean towards, no, you're not. If you ask yourself a question, should I continue to do this? Like, am I even good enough? The answer is probably going to be like, no, you're not, so don't even bother. You might as well just give up. Right? If the answer is like, are things going to get even worse from now on? The answer is probably going to lean towards, yeah, chances are that they will. So just, give up and stay where you are, I think those things affect you in a really negative way. And one way that I know to change that around is to really change the type of quality of questions that you're asking yourself. So the mindset I try to apply to kind of facing, important situations in my life is to ask myself, like, what if things turn out better than I could ever imagine? And imagine if you apply this to kind of any given situation that comes your way. Imagine if you tackle it from a perspective of, like, what if things do turn out than I could ever imagine? What if I go on this date and, and it ends up, and this person, like, we connect and we just have a great time? What if I give this presentation and people really respond to it and they really have a great time? I could go on and on, but it just creates a totally different situation in your life. And the reality, of course, is that not everything is going to work out perfectly, right? We know that. That's not how the world works. That's not how life is. But I promise you this. If you do this in your life, then more good things will come to you, because you just come at it with a different level of energy. You just have a different vibe, and that's why it's so crucial to trust yourself. Trust yourself, my friend. You are good enough to do this. And yes, I know it can be confusing. Yeah, I know it can be like too much sometimes, and you don't know which way to go. But you are enough, and you have enough in you to work things out, to break it down, like we talked about with the outcome map, to break it down in front of you and look at it in a logical, rational way. So that's kind of the process, but also the mindset. What we talked about is looking at life situation in a way that you think, what if things do turn out better than I could ever imagine? And those two things will help you to break down confusion as you're going through tough times, and will help you to set you on your way towards finding hope. My name is Joe Bakhmoutski. Thank you so much for being here, for watching this. I'll see you soon.